Patriots Daily is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Jerod Mayo had an interesting comment yesterday while speaking to, I believe it was Steve Burton, after his presser, where he said, we're going to draft the best player for a position that's very important. You put the pieces together. I know you were split on what that meant. I want your take, but for me, the body language after where he's like, I was like, okay, I don't think he was being super vague. I think it was like, yeah, I think everyone knows we're getting a quarterback. That's probably what we're going to do. But what were your thoughts? Maybe I'm just being a little hopeful.
Well, look, I mean, how do you not read that and see quarterback? The only thing holding me back is it's too good to be true that he's just telling us, right? I think, the way I look at it, could very important position or a position that's very important. Maybe that's just how he says premium position, which is a term we use all the time. Premium positions are in no particular order: quarterback, tackle, receiver, corner, edge rusher, right? Those are the premium positions. Those are the most expensive positions on the field. It's the hardest. Generally, it's the thinnest talent groups, although wide receivers really seen a boost the last couple of years. Maybe he means that. And maybe he just means, yeah, we're not, no offense, Cole Strange. We're not taking Cole Strange. Right? We're not taking post tackle. We're taking a guy that's an impact play. He can make an impact in an impact position. But that's really the only thing I have to say it's not a quarterback is just it's too good to be true that he would tell us it is. And it's not, obviously for us here, it's out of the norm. It's not that out of the norm for other teams. The reason
even to joke about it, even to make the joke, I was like, what?
Other teams sometimes, so the only thing is you don't really only do this if you're picking top 3, maybe 4, depending on the draft. Because once you get to 5, you don't know what the draft looks like. There may be, I think the Falcons are sitting set, and they're their own thing because they're going to get Bill, but maybe the Giants are sitting there at 5th saying oh yeah, they could tell their fans, yeah, we're going to take a wide receiver. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors both go before they get a chance. And that completely changes the picture of it. Right. So when you're picking 3rd, you have a little more freedom to do that. Sometimes teams will be like, yeah, this is the position we want to address in the draft. I think Daniels, or I think a quarterback is the way, and that's probably Daniels. Just the way the board looks right now, could end up being May, but it's not like the Patriots are just starting to scout these guys now. They've been on them really for the last year, but in the case of Daniels and May, who have multiple years as starters, I mean, they follow these guys all the way through. So they may look at it and they may know at this point, maybe they don't know which one they like best, but hey, we'd be comfortable taking either of these guys 3rd overall. And we'll figure out who that is and where the board falls, but we know we're going to have a chance at one of these guys. And there's an advantage in that because then you look at it and say, all right, that's our quarterback. Let's go out in free agency and let's get players that fit with this quarterback skill set and internal free agency even. All right, this guy still makes sense in the new offense. We're keeping him. This guy doesn't. We're going to need this money to get this receiver. So this guy's got to go. Any good offseason, you plan around a quarterback. Problem is, when you don't know who your quarterback is, it can be very hard to do that. If you're taking Jane Daniels or Drake May, it makes it a little bit easier.
And it's important to remind people that the hay is pretty much in the barn when it comes to draft evaluations. The people who are in the front office are not like us, where we're kind of catching up, watching the film, really getting an idea of what all these prospects look like. They already know the film stuff. What changes is what happens in the combine, if they go to bowl games, things like that, where there are all-star games, where they get an opportunity to maybe show some things they had questions on, maybe if there were things where, their speed, their height, their hands, whatever it is. That's when you start making adjustments, but you're rarely going to see.
Or just talk to him and get to know him. Yeah, that's important too.
In interviews, yeah. So there will be changes, there will be sliding and everything, but it's not like Jerod Mayo hasn't gotten people's feedback, and this is who we like on the board. They already have a good idea. They just need more information to confirm.
The NFL season is wrapping up, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
I do want your take on this because we talk about it, I feel like, once a week. We do this once a week. But I feel like we talk about it pretty regularly. Could the Patriots maybe go somewhere else with the 3rd pick? Usually, I kind of feel like, it's an interesting conversation because the dynamics start to change. We didn't have Caleb Williams having declared or Marvin Harrison Jr. last time we did this show, so it was very different. This time, we do know that Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. have declared. But Dane Brugler, all right, one of the best draft people you can follow on the planet. He does a fantastic job. He recently mocked the Patriots to actually take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3rd overall and then wait to get Bo Nix, who I've also heard from Lance Zierlein is going to be someone that he has ranked higher than a lot of people are going to think. So I need you to tell me whether there is some validity to this or whether it's just like, all right, maybe the 3rd round of the mock draft, we're thinking a little too hard and we're going to, get back to even as things go on, because we talked about it, like the road Knicks. Yeah, he, was able to silence some of that criticism at times this season, but I never saw anything where I was like, this guy, like if the Pats get him, I think they'll be okay. I still think he's going to need a lot of help around him. Anybody would, but more so him than the top 3 guys. So do you think that's a real possibility that they get Marvin Harrison Jr. and Bo Nix, or do you think it's quarterback at number 3?
I mean, look, it's a possibility. Harrison's a fantastic player, but I don't think, if you get Jaden Daniels, you instantly start building around him. And if he's a bust, he's a bust. You start over. Bo Nix is he's older. His floor is not nearly as high. His ceiling's not as high. You just wonder how his game's going to translate to the NFL. Like the whole idea of, all right, let's just take the NFL has gotten so good at scouting quarterbacks. And Russell Wilson in the 3rd round won't happen anymore. Brock Purdy's an anomaly. And part of the reason you have Brock Purdy is because he's playing with the best. I mean, can I say it? The most talented offense in the NFL.
Yeah, the most well coached. Outside of like the straight drop back game, it's like, you really can't get much better.
you put Bo Nix in that offense, it's probably going to look pretty good. You put, anybody. You put JJ McCarthy. You put who are some? I'm trying to think of like the day 3 quarterbacks in this draft. Normally, I'm freaking out about those guys. But you take literally Mr. Irrelevant, the last guy you drop in that offense, it's going to look pretty good. Generally, that's not. You don't find franchise quarterbacks after the 1st round. I'm going to give you the day 2 quarterbacks the last few years here, Taylor. And some of these were teams literally, they needed a franchise quarterback and they said, all right, we're going to try to get our guy on day 2 and see how that works out and, address another need. So this is going back to 2019. Will Levis, Hendon Hooker, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, Jalen Hurts, Drew Lock, Will Grier. Those are your day 2 quarterbacks the last 5 years. I can keep going. Mason Rudolph, Deshaun Kaiser, Davis Webb, CJ Beathard, Christian Hackenberg, Cody Kessler. I'd say the last time there's a borderline starting quarterback taken on day 2 is probably Jacoby Brissett.
Our guy, who hopefully will also return to the Patriots this offseason, whether it's as a mentor, as a bridge, whatever it is. I feel like he's somebody you got to get in this room.
So best case scenario here is Jacoby Brissett. And I'm not saying like he's a very different player stylistically than Bo Nix is, but history, it would be great if they could do that. It'd be great if they could take Marvin Harrison and then go out on day 2 and still have a chance at their franchise quarterback. History tells us that's not how it works. The good quarterbacks, they're gone. Yep. They're off the board. And you say, okay, great. Then take the quarterback next year. One, you're burning a year of Marvin Harrison Jr. on an affordable contract, which sucks. And you risk him getting frustrated with the organization. Yep. The last thing you want is by the time you get good, he doesn't have the patience he wants out, which happens. You see wide receivers ask out all the time. The other thing is, then you're beholden to next year's quarterback class. And I feel like people are acting like Marvin Harrison Jr. is the last wide receiver prospect ever. Right. The last train out of the station. And if you don't get Marvin Harrison Jr., you'll never get a good wide receiver. No, there are believe it or not, there will be other receivers that are all pros in the future. Some, in fact, in this draft and in future drafts. Quarterback's not quite the same way. A down wide like last year was a pretty down wide receiver year. It's probably the weakest year for wide receivers in my time doing the draft. And you still had Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, you got Puka Nacua in the 5th round, right? Demario Douglas in the 6th. Like you did okay. Whereas you're getting, if on a down year for quarterbacks, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Bailey Zappi, Sam Howell, Chris Oladukin, Skylar Thompson.
Guys you do not want starting for your football team.
Right. So and Brock Purdy, but again, we kind of already discussed he's a unique situation. you hit a down year for receivers. If that's your primary need, you can still probably end up with a good wide receiver. It just means you can't necessarily wait to draft one. You wait for a down year for quarterback, enjoy Kenny Pickett. So that's where, for me, it's like you have a chance to take an elite quarterback. You better not be picking. And that's the other thing. You're picking a 3. Maybe there's a good quarterback draft next year, but it's 3 deep, and you win a couple games and you're picking at 8. Now you don't have a chance to take the quarterback. Get the quarterback now. You have the opportunity. You have the chance. You have the draft capital. You do that, and then you move on, and then you fill out the rest of it elsewhere. Because also, you can sign T. Higgins. There's no T. Higgins equivalent at the quarterback position. You can sign Mike Evans. There's no Mike Evans equivalent. If AJ Brown's available for trade, you're not trading for an AJ Brown equivalent quarterback. There's just more ways to add a wide receiver than there are a quarterback.
And I feel like the Patriots are kind of in their little Texans era, where you kind of are hoping that the blueprint that the Texans kind of followed carries through. And look at the Texans. Their highest paid wide receiver is Robert Woods. They got great value for Noah Brown, obviously, like not the first guy you think of for the Texans. I don't know why he's always there, but he's a solid X for them, outside guy, runs crossers very well. Like, he's a guy who gives them some juice. Nico Collins was a 3rd-round pick. Tank Dell was a 4th-round pick. And these are guys who literally are the reason the Texans have been so explosive. They haven't looked nearly as good without Tank Dell, and Nico Collins has been balling really all season, but especially since Tank went down. So I agree. You don't need to have the superstar bona fide, like he's coming on the NFL field and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, you don't need that guy, especially if you have a quarterback who raises the ceiling of the floor for the offense and allows you to maybe spend later capital on those kinds of guys and say, hey, our scouting is very good. We can take a chance on these guys. Our quarterback will bring out the best in them.